standing as we sing our national anthem, sung by Cantor Ira Biegeleisen.
Oh, say, can you see by the nocturne light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, came through the night, and the flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
You may be seated. Bienvenue, welcome, and bruchim habaim. My name is Rabbi Yonatan Rahamani, YCT's Dean of Rabbinic Initiatives, and a proud member of the class of 2007, which makes tonight my Rabbinic Sweet 16. It's an honor to be serving as Master of Ceremonies for tonight's graduation and Chag HaSemikha ceremony. Welcome also to those who are joining us from around the world via Zoom. We feel your presence, and thank you for being up, some of you very late at night, to join us live. I remember YCT's first annual dinner held during my first year as a student at the yeshiva some 20 years ago, when our founder and Rebbe, Rav Avi Weiss, who is in Israel tonight, described his vision for the future, telling us that if we stayed the path, in 10 years, there would be 100 YCT graduates in the field. And here we are this evening, celebrating our 20th Chag HaSemikha with over 200 graduates of various rigorous programs. Jul, Smicha, our Advanced Kollel and our Rikma Fellowship for Israeli Rabbanim and Rabbaniyot. Let us be grateful for how far we've come as we honor and celebrate the 4 men joining the ranks of YCT alumni this evening. That's you guys. We offer special thanks to each and every member of YCT's faculty and administration who are listed on the back of your programs for their ceaseless devotion to our students and this community day in and day out. We acknowledge the tireless work of our board of directors, some of whom are here tonight with us, in supporting our institution, and we welcome the many Rabbanim and Rabbaniyot who are here with us, honoring our graduates and recognizing YCT's important role and contribution to Am Yisrael. I urge each of us to allow ourselves to feel present at this holy time as we celebrate this milestone in the lives of our graduates and all that they have done and will continue to do in serving the Jewish people throughout the world going forward. To our graduates, I've known each of you for many years, having worked as YCT's Director of Recruitment and having had the privilege of spending time with you in locations as exotic as Jerusalem, Paris, and my personal favorite, Hempstead, Long Island. As you were weighing your options and ultimately choosing a path of service to Am Yisrael, which included YCT as its launchpad. And in my current capacity, working with our alumni, I can share with you that our musmachim around the world are excited to have you join their ranks. Just as the four of you are diverse in your backgrounds, your worldviews, and your aspirations for the future, so too are our alumni. But you and we are united in a shared passion for Torah, in our love for Israel, and our faith in the work we do every single day. As I mentioned, the springboard for our graduates is the immense amount of time they have spent steeped in Torah learning with our world-class faculty. So what better way to begin our ceremony than by hearing words of Torah from Rabbi Tavora's Latschauer. Rabbi Tavora served as a Rebbe at YCT a number of years ago, and she returned to YCT this year in the capacity of senior scholar. In that capacity, she has had the opportunity to share her Torah and her inspiring story with various members of our YCT communities throughout the world, and I urge each and every one of you to take the opportunity to learn with her and from her whenever you can. But her Torah is not just one of speaking, it's one of listening as well. As YCT's Mashgicha Ruchanit, you've been a voice of wisdom and a compassionate ear for our students and for your colleagues. And we are all grateful to learn from you and with you on this special evening. Rabbi Tavora.
Thank you, Rav Yonah Berman. I had to take over from this Mashgiach Ruchani, so those words are particularly welcome. Emile, Eric, Michael, and Yonatan. Oh, Yonatan, that smile is like from ear to ear. Huge, huge mazel tov. You've come to the end of your time here at Yeshiva, and it's now time for you to journey from our Beit Midrash as rabbis and educators. Like the people of Israel in the book of Bamidbar, you have your marching orders. Like the Leviim, you have your Avodat HaKodesh, the divine service particular to you. But there's one more step before you can begin traveling al pi Hashem, by the word of God. And that's what happens this evening. The moment of graduation, the receiving of smicha, is not just an achievement, and it's a huge achievement. It's a moment of consecration. In the last two parshiot, we've been told in detail about the different services each of the families of Levi will perform. While the family duties differ, they are but different aspects of the mandate of Lishmor Mishmeret, to serve. Mishmeret is in service to everyone, to the Kohanim, to the people, and to the sanctuary itself. The term shamar is usually translated as to guard. And indeed, the Leviim are to surround the tabernacle, the Mishkan, guarding against inappropriate entry into it. But in the larger sense, Lishmor Mishmeret is to take charge, to discharge one's office, and to do so well and with devotion, doing what one has been appointed by God to do. When one's job is to serve God and the Jewish people, knowing the job, even spending years preparing for the job, is insufficient. A dedication to Avodat HaKodesh, holy work, demands a ritual, a religiously significant way of marking this beginning. In this week's parsha, we learn, V'yikravta es ha-Leviim lifnei Hashem, v'samechu v'nei Yisrael es yidehem al ha-Leviim. And you shall bring forward the Leviim before God, and the children of Israel shall lay their hands, perform smicha on the Leviim. After the Leviim have been purified, they are to be brought before God and before the children of Israel. The people place their hands, perform smicha on the Leviim. This is the very first time that smicha is performed on human beings, and it will be repeated in the Torah only once, when Moshe designates Yehoshua as his successor. So what's the smicha about? The Torah notes that it's a substitution. The children of Israel acknowledge that the tribe of Levi will take the place of the firstborns who are intended to serve in the sanctuary. The people affirm that the tribe of Levi will serve in their stead. Through the laying of hands, they hand over this responsibility to the Levium, who will substitute for the people in their service of the sanctuary. But in that transfer, it is not simply responsibility that shifts. The Levium are singled out. They stand in the presence of the people and God, and are now given over to God and God's service. Nisunim, nisunim, hema li mitoch b'nei Yisrael. They specifically are handed to me, says God, from among the children of Israel. The smicha of the Levium serves as a paradigm for tonight's graduation and smicha ceremony. Like the Levium, you are here tonight in the presence of the Jewish people and in the presence of the Ribono Shel Olam, of God. At this moment, you dedicate yourselves to the service of the Jewish people, and by witnessing this holy moment, we affirm that commitment. In a few moments, you will take on this mantle of dedication to God, God's people, and God's Torah. We wish for you that you always feel the presence of the Shekhinah in your work, and that you always feel our confidence in you. Mazel tov.
Thank you, Rabbi Devora. Over the past few years, as part of the many YCT 2.0 initiatives, we created an academic track within our Beit Midrash devoted to training Torah leaders for the Jewish community. The Jewel program stands out for its approach to leadership that is based on Torah learning in a Beit Midrash setting. And we're thrilled to be graduating our first smiling Jewel certificate recipient this evening. Yonatan Rahamani has been a valued member of our Beit Midrash community over the past 2 years. And this evening, as he and his family prepare for their next steps in Eretz Yisrael, we invite Yonatan's Chavruta, Balbino Cortarello Nunez, to offer him words of blessing. Balbino will be followed by Rabbi Chagai Reznikov, who will present Yonatan with a special gift. A quick word first about Rabbi Reznikov, who took on the role of Dean of YCT this past year. Being the dean is not an easy job. Juggling the responsibilities of administration, of teaching, of handling faculty, and oh yeah, those students need things too. That's a lot. Rav Chagai, as your neighbor, sometimes bar plukta, and always friend, I speak for every member of the YCT community when I say how grateful we are for your passion for Torah and for your devotion to us all. Thank you, and we wish you continued success in your new role. Mazal tov. Balbino.
You can hear me, can you? Yeah? Okay. You're not? Oh, yes. Thank you. Yonatan, I still remember one of our first interactions in the Bet Midrash program where Rabbi Sperling, that was teaching us Talmud, asked in one of the first lessons what was our objective, learning Talmud. And when my turn came up, I said, my objective is to know what came from the Bet Din HaGadol and what not, what was halacha and what was not. And a window from the chat pop up with your name saying, we have very similar objectives. We need to talk about it. So, long story short, we ended up having a whole year of learning together as a Haveruta 2 years later. And in our Haveruta, the east of Paras and Surya met with the west of the Nassau Portuguesa. And the spirit of all Sepharad came alive many times. And in our own ways, humbly, we tried to answer the question I had, the question we both had. What is halacha and what is not? And as Rabbi Cardoso explained, the aim of halacha is freedom and love to all peoples, including Jews and non-Jews, and even animals, and even the rest of nature. And we had that in mind in all our studies, and the questions came up. How can we restore the throne of our national legislation? How many problems do we have in Halakha? How can we fix Halakha? And those questions were what united us, and unite us now, and will unite us in the future. And we not only, like you are doing, have to restore our homeland, as you will soon be doing it with Aliyah, but also we have to restore our shofetim and our advisors, as we had before. And with all of this in mind, with this freedom, with this love, with this equality the Halakha wants to achieve, I bless you with the wisdom to contribute as a Talmid Hachamim to reveal our past glory as it should be, Be'ezrat Shaddai. And may you, dear Yonatan, live always with truth, with honor, and with wisdom. And let me quote the recipe to achieve that from Chacham Yaakov Anatoli, Zichrono Livracha, from the 12th century of the Common Era. To grasp as much of the truth as is humanly possible, you must lay the whole realm of knowledge under honor. In gathering this knowledge, you must be willing to learn from all, whether they be of a high or low status, whether they be members of your own faith or belong to other faiths, whether they be believers or infidels. In the providence of learning, as in the field of practical everyday living, you should break the nut open, enjoy the meat, and discard the shell. So it has been such an immense honor to learn with you that I don't have words to express my gratitude to you. My heart lives with your friendship, and inshallah, we will share many more things in the future. You should really take good care of your family, and whatever comes to you, remember that El Dios es grande, and whichever dream you want, you will achieve that.
Yonatan? Yes. Yonatan, you are a consummate educator. You've taught us about Sfaradi Halakha and Kriyat Torah and the economics of local produce and the dangers of seed oils and so much more. Simultaneously, under the mentorship of our Musmach, Rabbi Devin Villarreal, you have become a teacher of children. For some, you were their single source of Torah. You touched their souls, sparked in them a love and passion of Torah and Yiddishkeit, inspiring one of them to petition his parents to send him to Jewish school for his continued education. Yonatan, your Torah changes lives. One thing is sure, Yonatan, you have challenged us, and we have challenged you. You advocated tirelessly for greater recognition of Sfaradi Poskim and Sfaradi Torah. You have made us aware of our Ashkenormative impulses and have pushed us to make our learning more layered and multivocal. And we have challenged you to take your passion, your fire, and to learn to dial it down just one notch. At times, you have been the sneh that is bo'er ba'esh, so much that it can be hard for the rest of us to get close without being burned. You have worked on turning that fiery heat into a loving, intimate warmth that draws people close. Next year, Yonatan, you'll be in Israel, with your wife Ilana and your daughters Mazal and Hodaya, who we've gotten to know so well over the last 2 months. You'll be bringing your special Torah. You'll be, dedicating yourself to Torah learning and finding new ways to bring your special Torah to children and adults in Eretz HaKodesh. In recognition of your achievement, we at YCT would like to present you with this beautiful yad. As a passionate Baal Koreh, we are confident that you will use it with frequency and with love, and we know that it will help you and help you point others in the way of Torah. Ale Yonatan, Hinetanam Hashem biyadecha. Your new life and your new students eagerly await you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please turn your attention to the screen to your left for Divrei Bracha, honoring our Musmachim from our founder and Rebbe, Rav Avi Weiss.
Mazel tov, mazel tov. Mazel tov to Yedidi, Mori v'Rabbi, to Rav Dov, to the entire staff, to Ruthie, to Rav Chagai, Rabbi Soscha, Yona, everyone. Mazel tov, and to all the chevra. And of course, to our graduates, those who are being ordained, receiving smicha this year. Such an honor, such a joy just to say a few words to each of you. Michael, when I think of Michael, I think of the Pidgam V'Igata U'Matzata. Sometimes in life, one just has to have a commitment. No matter what, you're going to blaze the path. And I have so much respect for you, Michael. Here you are. Here you are, a husband, a father, a family person, an extraordinarily accomplished lawyer, and you decide you're going to go for smicha at this point in your life. And you travel in virtually every week, and you stay with it day in and day out. What an accomplishment. What an extraordinary accomplishment. And you have a humility and an integrity that's going to take you to places where you're going to really be a great inspiration, Michael. Kol hakavod. And Emile, together with Miriam, when I think about what you're doing in Paris, knowing Paris a little bit in some of the rabbanim and the shuls, I think of the pasuk Chinam levadad yishkon. In a certain sense, your lone voices, your understanding of halakha, your understanding that halakha is not only a learning of the book, but connecting to people It's so refreshing and so needed. And you're already teaching Shirim, and you're going to be beginning with a Kol Koreh Bamidbar. But in the end, you are already and you will continue to inspire people to come to you who will learn at your feet. And your style is you don't let anyone be at your feet. You want to talk to people in dialogue, face to face. Emile, I'm so proud. Kol hakavod lecha. You're really, really doing something which others would think is impossible, but you've made it real. And Eric, Yididi Eric, soon to marry, looking forward to that moment. Eric, when I think of you, Eric, I think about Lev Tahor Bara Elokim. When you teach, it's a teaching of Dvarim Hayotzim Min Halev, Nichnasim El Halev. For you, there's not only the black spaces of the letters of the Torah, but the white spaces that take the mind and infuse the mind with a real heart, with a real neshama. I've seen it. I've seen it in the way you've cared for individuals. I've seen it in the way you've assumed responsibility, running back and forth to Hofstra. You are going to make an extraordinary rabbi wherever you choose to serve. Whether on campus where you're already so successful, or in your dream serving as a Rav of a Kehillah, you will go mala. You are going to really achieve, and you're going to touch so many nishamot. To all of you, I bless you. I hope you can step back in the spirit of the Navi. Yirmiyahu Navi says, Merachok Hashem nirali. Sometimes you have to step back to recognize what you've accomplished and to understand that it's a great achievement to having been ordained, receiving smicha. Not only is it a great achievement, but as you know, it's the greatest zechut. The greatest merit in this world is to serve Am Yisrael, is to give to Am Yisrael. And my blessings, to quote the Sfat Emet, is Adam tzarich liot malech mimadrega lemadrega. Keep walking and walking. Keep walking higher and higher and higher still. Go out there. Am Yisrael desperately needs you. Medinat Yisrael desperately needs you desperately. Go out, impact our people, and inspire the world. Inspire Kol Ha'olam Kulo. Oh, Siminto, oh, Mazel Tov. Pira-pira-da. Oh, Siminto, oh, Mazel Tov. Oh, Piramin al Hashem, dai. Siminto, oh, Mazel Tov, Siminto. Yeah, hey, Lano. Yeah, hey, Lano, Lecho Yisrael. Lecho Yoshvei Tevel, lai. My blessings and love.
Wow. We've arrived at the conferral of smicha. One of the most beautiful things about YCT is the way in which we focus on our students every day and especially today, as we graduate our students to become rabbis. Each of them is honored by a close friend or teacher who offers them words of blessings that speak, as Rav Avi said, milev elev, from one heart to another, to their strengths and the many ways in which they have already begun to serve the Jewish people. Following these words of blessing, Rabbi Dov Linzer, YCT's president and Rosh HaYeshiva, will confer smicha on the individual. We'll have the opportunity to hear words from these newly minted rabbis. And maybe we'll sing a little bit too. We invite Rabbi Hodi Nemes, YCT's class of 22, program director of Solu. You need to hear about Solu. It's a startup bringing Jews together with a diverse population of non-Jews for the betterment of the greater Chicagoland community. They're doing amazing work. Look them up, solu.us, where he also serves as a beloved member of the clergy of Skokie Valley, Agudath Jacob, with fellow YCT Rabbi Ari Hart. Rabbi Nemes will offer words of blessing to Michael Gordan.
Michael, or as I like to call you, Michael Gordan. In Sefer Mishlei we read, Ki livyat chen heim l'roshecha va'anakim l'gargarotecha. For they, the words of Torah, are a graceful livaya, a wreath on your head, and a beautiful necklace about your throat. What in the world does this mean? What is a livyat chen, a graceful wreath? The Gemara in Eruvin says the following: Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, hamahalech baderech ve'eni mo livaya, yasok batorah. Shene'emar ki livyat chen heim. Someone who's walking on the way and has no accompaniment, has no company, no livaya, should study Torah, as it's written, ki livyat chen heim. It is a graceful accompaniment. Michael, you are a lonely traveler. You have traveled up and down the eastern seaboard more times than we can count, but you never traveled alone. Torah accompanied you. You called into Shir from your home, from the road, sanctifying the many miles of Interstate 95 with Bittul Barov, Psik Reisha, Megis, Pastoral Torah, and much more. And you didn't have to come. You're a very strong learner. I know that from our chevrutas. You left me in the dust. You could have learned on your own. You had a successful job as a lawyer. You didn't really have time for morning Seder. But somehow you made time because you were thirsty for Torah, thirsty for the Masorah that you couldn't get just from reading books, thirsty for the loving openness found in a particular Beit Midrash on the edge of Henry Hudson Parkway. Torah accompanied you. But not only that, from your home city of brotherly love, you brought your abundant generosity, your wry and spectacular sense of humor, your easygoing nature, and a special gravitas. You not only raised the average age of the Beit Midrash a little bit, you also raised the wisdom, the laughter, and the Mesirat Nefesh. And you even agreed when I asked you to serve as an actor in the 2020 Purim Spiel, pretending to call in not from Philadelphia, but all the way from the island of Guam. We need more Michael Gordans, Lamdanim who will travel for Torah, who will come not for glory or even for a new title, but who come to learn and to bring their learning back to their lives. So I bless you that Hashem should be with you and that you should take your Torah with you. But don't keep it to yourself. Take it back down the highway. Bring it to the halls of your law firm, to the streets of Bala Kinwood, to the shoals of Pennsylvania. Bring your delightful, funny, easygoing Torah and accompany each of us, accompany the Jewish people with your Torah. Mazel tov.
Michael. On behalf of YCT Rabbinical School, and for the benefit of Klal Yisrael, we hereby confer upon you, Rabbi Michael Gordan, Harav Michael Noach ben Miriam V'David Shmuel Gordan, the authority to decide questions of Jewish law and practice, Yoreh Yoreh B'Isur V'Heter. We also declare that we have found you to be, by character and training, fit to serve as a rabbinic leader of a community, a Rav Umanhig B'Yisrael. May God be with you in all your endeavors. Mazel tov.
Please be seated for some words of Torah from Rabbi Michael Gordan.
Thank you. As I was thinking about this speech, it became more and more obvious to me that there was one logical place to start. So I'll begin with the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. Elisha ben Abuya Omer, Halomed Torah Yeled lemahu domeh, L'dio ketuva al niar chadash. V'halomed Torah zaken lemahu domeh, L'dio ketuva al niar machuk. Elisha ben Abuya says, to what should we compare someone who learns Torah as a child? To ink written on fresh paper. To what should we compare someone who learns Torah in his old age? To ink written on paper that has been scraped clean. I learned this Mishnah as a child in the Solomon Schechter Day School of Greater Boston. And at the time, what I was most interested in was not the lesson, but the fancy word for scraped paper, palimpsest in English. Our forebears had limited access to writing materials, and so they would sometimes scrape or wash words off a piece of parchment in order to reuse it. The original writing was often still visible, and so Elisha ben Abuya's statement, on the surface at least, is that the learning of youth is more clearly and distinctly inscribed than the learning of old age. And the fact that I still remember it is a point in his favor. I will attempt later to identify a subtext. Before that, however, I would like to talk a little about the path that led me to being here today from learning that Mishnah 40 years ago and all the years in between. The immediate impetus for coming to YCT was a visit by Rav Avi Weiss and his wife Toby about 5 years ago to Bala Cynwyd, the Philadelphia suburb where I live. Scholars and residents come and go, and some make more of an impression than others, but Rav Avi was of a different order of magnitude. For every conversation, he was present in an almost startling way, I very clearly remember him sitting on the stairs in serious dialogue with our daughter, who at that time was about 11 or 12, about the state of American Judaism. He was not shy about addressing difficult issues forthrightly. And Rav Avi was more than a scholar in residence. He had founded a yeshiva, and so I began to wonder if it was plausible for me to attend. For my part, I felt I wanted both a structured program for my learning, as well as a chance to spend time with a traditional Judaism that didn't feel limited in its ability to engage with modernity. If that was the original impulse for my time at Chovevei, it was sustained over the years of trying to work and learn, waking up very early in Philadelphia to drive to Riverdale, by the consistent, ongoing inspiration I drew from my classmates. I had the benefit of spending 4 years with students who had decided to dedicate their careers to providing leadership and education to the Jewish people. It is a privilege to participate in the very beginning of their journeys and to hear about their projects and passions, rabbinical students who will work in places as diverse as hospitals, prisons, schools, synagogues, and universities. I don't mind playing the martyr every now and then and bemoaning the days I woke up at 4:30 in Philadelphia in order to arrive at yeshiva in time for minyan. But I will freely admit what a zechut it has been to sit and learn with my fellow students. I know that their voices will be crucial and sorely needed contributors to the larger Jewish discussion for decades to come. Returning to Elisha ben Abuya's statement, although its division between younger and older learners seems intuitive, there are reasons to question the analogy. Recall the life story of Elisha ben Abuya. His father dedicated him to Torah study from an early age, but upon observing that the mitzvot were not rewarded as he thought they should be, he abandoned Judaism. His experience of learning was exactly what his Mishnah describes. He tried to erase the teachings of his youth and overwrite them with a new philosophy. Yet perhaps he found that it was not so easy to leave his history behind, and the result was not the clean break he hoped for, but a continued, unsatisfying engagement with a tradition he had hoped to abandon. My time at YCD has been quite different, as I found my studies deepening and extending what already existed, stretching back from Solomon Schechter Day School to the present day. Beyond that, the Hebrew words for palimpsest that Elisha ben Abuya used, niar machuk, erased paper, will evoke a specific response in those who have spent a year of rabbinical school learning Hilchot Shabbat. Mechika, erasing, is one of the 39 forbidden activities of Shabbat, covered in the extra topics shiur of Rabbi Reznikov. Although it seems like a purely destructive act, the source of the prohibition is the idea that you are erasing text in order to write new text. So what is forbidden on Shabbat is exactly what Elisha ben Abuya describes, the creation of a palimpsest, which exists to be written upon. The halachot of Shabbat forbid this erasure because it carries within it the seeds of a creative act. With that understanding, I take some inspiration from Elisha ben Abuya's words. The palimpsest is the basis for a new endeavor, the enshrining of new text on top of old in a way that need not be second-rate, but instead can be enriching. Where Elisha ben Abuya saw texts and philosophies at war with one another, and the worse off for it, I hope that I can join my YCT colleagues as a contributor to an engaging and sophisticated Judaism. A palimpsest is inferior because its text is blurred and difficult to understand. I hope that mine will be made more interesting because of its history and layers. YCT has encouraged me to see my experience and background not as distractions from learning, but as integral parts of it. For each of the graduates here today, there are obviously many layers of people to thank for support and encouragement. I had to spend many nights in New York City away from home, and my gratitude to those who hosted me, providing a comfortable bed, great meals, encouragement, and Wi-Fi codes will never be erased. Without their help, this journey could not have taken place. But there are a few stops on my journey that cannot go unmentioned, familiar names that occurred over and over in my travels. To list but a few, I'd like to give a shout out to Joyce Kilmer, Molly Pitcher, Richard Stockton, Grover Cleveland, and finally, inspirational coach Vince Lombardi. Thank you all, and Mazal Tov to Emile, Eric, and Yonatan.
Took me a second to get that. When you've known someone for decades, and you learn Torah with them, and you teach with them, you discover interesting things. And when you meet someone in that category who is such a master at teaching that he can speak to anyone about anything in Judaism and beyond and bring them closer to God, to Torah, to the Jewish community in doing so, you make sure that when they talk, you listen. I invite my friend and colleague, Rabbi Yonah Hain, campus rabbi at Columbia Barnard University and Columbia Barnard Hillel, a teacher and mentor of many of our faculty and students, to offer words of blessing to Eric Garfinkel.
Let me tell you about Eric Garfinkel. After a full day comprising of Gemara, Halakha, extra topics, pastoral counseling, practical rabbinics, the students at YCT are offered a choice. They can choose an elective to take. Most students enroll in something philosophical or something from the Jewish mystical tradition or something that will practically enhance their future rabbinate. Eric Garfinkel chose Talmudic methodologies. Eric Garfinkel is the kind of student who, when you complete your Talmudic methodology spring 2022 elective, says, I saw on the syllabus that you had more planned than we actually got to. Do you think we can continue this next year? And so Eric is the kind of student to whom you say yes and expect them not to follow up. But then when the summer comes to an end and Eric says, Talmudic methodologies? And you say, sure, but after the Chagim. And once it's November 1st, you expect by then you're in the clear. Starting in November until last week, Eric and I learned Talmudic methodologies together at every opportunity we had. It was one of the most mutually rewarding Torah chavrutot of my life. It would be a stretch to say that I was the driving force in our studies together. And my bracha for tonight, Eric, is really that you embrace the three Birkot HaTorah that we have. Now, Birkot HaTorah would be a great Talmudic methodologies topic. I'm unavailable, but after. Talk to me after the Chagim. We would delve into the different analytical philosophies. We would look at Brachot Chaf Aleph and the different sources of it. And we would look into the histories of how it developed to have three brachot. What is this all about? But the three motifs that I wish unto you tonight are first, La'asok b'divrei Torah. La'asok b'divrei Torah has both a connotation of an immersion, which you certainly demonstrate, but I think it also, it represents a grind. That you don't just get to swim in Torah casually. You have to be osek in it. And it's not always easy, and I think that applies even more so once you're out of rabbinical school. Secondly, Asher Bachar Banu, Notena Torah, Natan Lanu et Torato. It's a gift, right? We may refer to it as a zechut to serve, but just living a life that is enhanced by the grind of Torah, that to me is an absolute gift. And the only way that this can proceed as a grind and a gift is V'ha'arevna, to enjoy it. And Eric, you are really a role model as someone who's willing to grind, who appreciates the gift, and who will be a role model for Klal Yisrael to see what kind of joy we can derive from Torah. Mazal tov.
Eric, on behalf of YCT Rabbinical School and for the benefit of Klal Yisrael, we hereby confer upon you, Rabbi Eric Garfinkel, Harav Oren Matityahu ben Zalman Baruch Garfinkel, the authority to decide questions of Jewish law and practice, Yoreh B'Isur V'Heter. We also declare that we have found you to be, by character and training, fit to serve as a rabbinic leader of a Jewish community, a Rav Umanhig B'Yisrael. May God be with you in all your endeavors. Mazel tov.
Rabbi Eric Garfinkel.
5 years ago, this week, I came to interview at YCT. It's almost full circle. The only problem is that we are a week off the Parsha from the week that I came here to interview. Thanks, Shavuos. But I'm going to take some liberties. In the Dvar Torah I gave that day, I spoke about my journey to rabbinical school, starting at Hofstra Hillel with Rabbi Dave Siegel, and ultimately how Parshat Shlach contains an interesting juxtaposition to Parshas Lech Lecha. In Lech Lecha, we see a command that you, Avram, should leave, while in Shlach, partnered with the next word, Lecha, that you command Moshe to send out people. In both parshios, we see two similar commands, two very different outcomes. In Shlach, the people are not allowed entry to the land for 40 years. Well, after Lech Lecha, Avram becomes the father of great nations. Why are the outcomes so vastly different? Some Parshanim, biblical commentators, explain that this section of Shlach comes only after the Israelites approached Moshe and said that they were going to send Meraglim, spies, before them into the land. Unlike Lech Lecha, which was focused on the individual, Shlach is about the group. Part of the reason why YCT stood out to me before I even got here was the interactions I had with YCT students at the time. They were compassionate, open-minded, learned, and represented an orthodoxy that I found to be inspiring, creating inclusivity in the things that they did while maintaining their own orthodox identity. These were the people that YCT had sent out. These were their shlichim, who echoed Rabbi Weiss, Shlita, his vision for what Judaism should and could be. When I got to YCT, I found this and more. The classes, the rebbeim, the mentors like Rabbi Hain and Rabbi East. The totality of YCT has prepared me to go out into the world and represent an orthodoxy that I value, one of compassion and open-mindedness while staying steadfast to halacha and tradition, an orthodoxy of showing up, being present to those that you serve, and finding ways to connect. My rebbeim have been an inspiration to me. They each model different things and collectively combine to create an amazing experience. It should come as no shock to anyone who knows me that the classes that worked for me and held my attention the most were the ones that focused on real Talmud Torah. Yeah, I said it. Learning Tanakh, yes, that is real Talmud Torah, folks. Gemara or Halacha, and especially any which threw in a Reb Chaim or teaching of the Rav. Having rebbeim who saw my thirst for knowledge and catered to it is no small matter. And having the ability to learn with these Talmidim Chachamim and have an ongoing relationship with them is something that I will forever be grateful for, to them and to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Just as Moshe is told to send out people, it is now YCT's turn to follow suit, sending out this graduating class as a form of shlichim. But there's a difference. According to Sforno, the reason Moshe is tasked with choosing who gets to go is so that the people cannot choose unworthy and unfit candidates. The rationale being that if they reported something that didn't align with what God had said, it would cause a rift between God and the people. So far, the parallel works. YCT and Rabbi Linzer get to choose who is a suitable candidate. However, the parallel ends there. The Meraglim that were picked lacked faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and thus came back and reported things that weren't accurate. I've heard Rav Abi speak about the Meraglim before. He says that perhaps their own views of themselves was reflected in the way that they were perceived by others. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. They saw themselves as weak, and therefore they believed that others saw them in the same light, which may or may not be true. Getting smicha is a show of faith and dedication, the exact thing the Meraglim lacked. In this story, when it is time to lehishlach, to be sent out, it is my belief and the belief of Rabbi Linzer and YCT that the outcome is bound to be different. Mazel tov.
Please direct your attention to the video screen as we invite Rabbi Adam Shire, one of our first graduates, the class of 2004, and senior rabbi of Congregation Chag HaSemikha in Montreal, Quebec, to offer words of blessing for Emile Ackermann.
I'm privileged to offer some brief words of blessing for my dear friend Emile Ackermann as he receives smicha from YCT Rabbinical School. It's a moment of deep pride for me and my community as we cherish our connection with Emile and Miriam, who served as our rabbinic interns and who brought such a great sense of energy and wisdom in English and in French to our congregation. I recall 19 years ago, Rebbe Mori Rabbi Linzer's words to our group of rabbis as we prepare to go out and teach and inspire and lead the Jewish community. And he explained that the concept of smicha is found in the Torah, v'samach yado al rosh korbano, that as Aaron HaKohen placed his hands upon the sacrifice and leaned into the sacrifice, upon the sacrifice, it's not just a peripheral act of leaning, but a fundamental act of placing one's entire weight upon the other object, so that if the leaned upon object would be removed, that the one leaning would fall. And that smicha is that moment when one generation places the responsibility and communicates that it's not only that we found you worthy, but that our ability to stand ourselves relies entirely upon you, the new musmach. Emile Ackermann, you are a leader who so readily accepts and embraces this responsibility. Together with your beloved Miriam, you're an amazing team that has understood specific needs of a community, and instead of waiting for others to fill that void, this amazing entrepreneurial endeavor has been created to bring an open and sensitive and loving orthodoxy to France. And even beyond that, Emile, you've become a public spokesperson for the Jewish community, your face and name and voice, providing that principled and dignified approach that you know how to do so well. You know, I recall in his first sermon at the Shar a few years ago, Emile spoke about free choice. He jumped right in, no easy topics, just Bechira Chofshit as the first sermon. And he spoke about those moments in which we consciously make a choice, and those other moments in which our decisions are more instinctive. And as he said, we then open ourselves up to divine will. Well, Emile has that instinct that I've seen firsthand so many times, knowing where to be and what to say and how to say it. He's never hesitant to ask questions and learn more. And we know his leadership will be a credit to YCT and the entire Jewish community. Emile, je suis honoré ainsi qu'Abby et toute notre congrégation que votre chemin pour devenir rabbin soit passé par le char. Nous vous bénissons avec un succès continu et que votre sagesse et votre amour de la Torah inspirent les Juifs de Paris, de toute la France et du monde entier. Mon cher ami Mazal Tov, Alei v'hatzlach. Go forward and find success and blessing. Thank you, and Mazal Tov.
Emile, on behalf of YCT Rabbinical School, and for the benefit of Klal Yisrael, we hereby confer upon you, Rabbi Emile Ackermann, Harav Alexander ben Yaakov V'Chana Ackermann, the authority to decide questions of Jewish law and practice, Yoreh B'Isur V'Heter. We also declare that we have found you to be, by character and training, fit to serve as a rabbinic leader of a community, a Rav Umanhig B'Yisrael. May God be with you in all your endeavors. Mazel Tov, and as I understand they say, bravo.
Rabbi Emile Ackermann.
Bonjour. Hello, everyone. It has always struck me that as soon as we open our eyes in the morning, our first duty in the Jewish tradition is to say, Modeh ani, I thank. We thank God every morning for giving us back our souls so that we can put ourselves in His service, at His service. We begin our day by establishing a relationship of gratitude and acknowledgement for the most precious gift of all, life. So we see our existence not as self-centered, self-sufficient, but as existing within an infinite network whose source is divine, driving us to show humility. In addition, Rav Kook, yes, I'm talking about Rav Kook, teaches us that this modeh is also a vidui, a confession. To confess something is to admit to oneself and to others something that is not easily audible to oneself because of ego or shame. Modeh ani is therefore also about admitting to ourselves that no one constructs his own identity and life alone, but rather that we are indebted to God and to the people around us. This decentering, which begins as soon as we get up in the morning, is at the heart of what the French philosopher Levinas called ethics of otherness, the recognition of a pure otherness that I cannot fully grasp or conceive. To recognize God is to recognize that in every person created in His image, there is a form of infinity to which I have an absolute duty. Thus, my morning modeh forces me not only to realize that I've only arrived at this stage of my life thanks to God and thanks to all the other human beings who have accompanied me, but also that in the opposite direction, I have a duty to devote myself to these two entities, Ben Adam Lamakom and Ben Adam Lachavero, for the rest of my life. Modeh ani ends with Rabba Emunatecha, great is your faith. But what is God's faith? What does God believe in? The Sifri on Kel Emunah, God of truth in Azinu, tells us Kel Emunah shehemin ba'olam, that He believes in the world. God trusts us to carry out this mission. And Yeshivat Chovevei Torah, my rabbanim, my teachers, the staff, my colleagues, and all these people are worthy representatives of this Kel Emunah, for they have never ceased to have faith in us. Today, I confess my gratitude to YCT for believing in us and in the worlds we ourselves are called to create. Thank you for teaching me from the important abstract concepts of the Talmud to the practical daily halachas. Thank you for teaching me how to care for a congregant who is in Shiva, for teaching me how to listen. Why am I talking? Thank you to my family, for my parents that I can't wait to go back to also. And of course, thank you to Miriam. You have to know that 6 years ago, Miriam said to me, "Why are you still studying international law? You should be a rabbi." And I answered, "You should be a rabbi." I hope you're proud of yourself. I'm nothing without all my teachers, all the people who accompanied me. I'm nothing without you, Miriam. Modeh ani. Thank you to all from the bottom of my heart.
case you haven't noticed, much of this evening's program has been built around words. Words of Torah. We have spoken them. We have sung them. Thank you, Rafi. We have imagined the ways in which our graduates will continue to bring them to Am Yisrael. This evening, we also gift each of our musmachim with a shofar, symbolic of our hopes for them at this most special time in their lives. The shofar is an instrument of mitzvah and a tool we use to call out to God, to gather our people, to pray. I can think of no one more dedicated and devoted to these causes, to our God, our people, and our spiritual practice, than YCT's director of the Department of Talmud, Rabbi Yissaschar Katz. You spend I'm not done yet. You spend every day at YCT and in other venues, both physical and virtual, using your unique voice to teach God's Torah, new and old, to a diversity of audiences, with love and devotion to our Jewish tradition. As one of our spiritual leaders, Rabbeim and role models, we invite you to present our musmachim with their shofarot.
I'm not ashamed to admit, it's been about 3 weeks or so that I got the email from Rav Chagai saying that the students decided that I should present the shofar. And I know it's supposed to be an honor, but I've been here for 22 years, each of which someone spoke about the shofar. What can I say that hasn't been said? I do not see where this is a kavod. This is a challenge. But I'm lucky to have had a father, Zichrono Livracha, who have taught me so many lessons. And this is when the joke has ended, and I'm serious. And one of the most important lessons in life he taught me was how to make lemonade from lemon. He didn't have an easy life, but he always found a positive. So as I was thinking about what can be said about the shofar, it's the same shofar, I realized that is the message to you, Mismachim. You will go out there, Michael, Emile, and Eric, and be Rabbanim for 30, 40, 50, and 60 years. You are going to be bounded by the Torah. It's going to be the same Torah, the same Gemara, the same halacha. But your charge is going to be to find meaning and new meaning and new meaning continuously. I remember when I was a rabbi in shul for 5 years, of course, the first 2-3 years was easy. First I talked about the beginning of the Parsha, second year I talked about the end of the Parsha, and third year I did the Haftorah, and it was great. But then after 3 rounds, like, what's left? And then I remembered the story about the woman who read Senerena that I was told growing up. There was a woman who, those of you who are not familiar, Senerena is a Yiddish translation of the Torah that has traditionally been read by women. And the story they used to tell was that there was this woman who every week would read the Parsha in Senerena, and she took it very seriously. She took it very to heart. And she got involved in Cain and Havel's fight. She got very sad. And then when Hagar was sent away, she was devastated. And then he comes to the story of Yosef, and she's just bawling. Yosef is sent to his brothers, and they really kind of, sell him to Egypt, and she's just devastated. And then she moves on to the Parshiot, and she's done. Then another year comes around, and she realizes she has to read the Parshiot again, and again she lives it with the depth and the seriousness and the heaviness. And then she comes to the story of Yosef, and Yaakov is about to send Yosef to the brothers, and she starts crying, "Don't go! Remember what happened last year?" That is your challenge. Your challenge is to teach your congregants how the Torah might be the same, but the story that he tells us is not the one he told us last year. We've changed. Our situation has changed. Our reality has changed. The Torah is the same, but the message is new. And that's the message that we give you when we give you the shofar. And then finally, I will admit that I've been sulking for 3 weeks. So last night, as I was at our son's graduation and still sulking, what can I say about the shofar? I remembered actually one final message, which is, I love the sugya of shofar. I love the sugya of Rosh Hashanah. One of the most fascinating pieces about the shofar is that if you read in the Torah talks about one sound, maybe, not even clear whether the Torah means a sound, utkatem truah. Those of you who remember 7, 8 months ago, by the time the day is over, we have 100 sounds. How did we go from 1 to 100? But I think that's the story of the rabbinate. That's the story of Judaism. With time, we need to let people hear a new sound and another sound and more sounds and more sounds. We don't change the Torah. We don't change the shofar. We don't take new instruments. But the sounds we blow are new and responsive to what the community needs to hear. And it will evolve. It will develop. Sometimes it will be sounds of crying. Sometimes it will be sounds of joy. And that's going to be your charge. Your charge is to never, never replace that shofar with any other instrument. Never change that halacha, that Torah, Tanakh, Rav Kook that you've learned here. But make sure that the story that you tell your students, the story you tell your congregants is always a new one and always grows and evolves. In the words of Rav Kook, Hayashan yitchadesh, v'achadash yitkadesh. That's your charge. Ali v'atzlichu.
As we move into the closing section of our program, we have the opportunity to reflect on this holy and special evening and to recognize that it is just one component of the unique institution that is YCT. Our yeshiva has so many stakeholders, all of whom feel a deep connection to our Beit Midrash, to our Torah, and to our Rosh Yeshiva. Rabbi Linzer, before you come up to the podium to deliver your charge to our Musmachim, I want to acknowledge a few things about your leadership as our president and Rosh Yeshiva. Working with you is a daily experience of being in the presence of inspiring Torah leadership. It is an opportunity to know someone who combines the highest degrees of capability with unceasing humility. It means having a colleague and a boss who is a visionary with the most collaborative approach possible. Your leadership has brought YCT to new and exciting places, and each and every person in this room and beyond is well aware that so much of what this institution is would not be possible if not for your tireless leadership. Speaking on behalf of our entire student body, our faculty, our administration, board of directors, and your hundreds of alumni in the field, what a zchut it is for all of us to know that we have each other's backs and are partners in this holy work. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Michael, Eric, and Emile, my dear Musmachim, after 4 intensive, immersive years of studying Torah and Halakha, after 4 years of learning how to speak and, more importantly, how to listen, after 4 years of internships and mentorships, of learning what it means to shape and lead a community and to be present for people in good times and bad, after 4 years, you have now done it. You have received smicha, so richly deserved, and you are now rabbis, each of you, a Rav Umanhig b'Yisrael. All this waiting, and now the time is finally here. After this, it's all going to be easy, right? Not so much, for it is now that the real work begins. Bnei Yisrael in this week's Parsha find themselves in a position very similar to yours. Having spent a year at the foot of Mount Sinai, accepting and learning God's Torah, building the Mishkan and arranging the camp, they are finally ready to move forward. You can taste the excitement and the anticipation in the air. Everything is in place. God's cloud is leading the way, and Moshe bursts out with a joyous song of celebration. Vayehi bin soah ha'aron. We are moving. This is really happening. And then reality kicks in. Things are not going to be that easy. Vayehi ha'am kimit onanim. The people are murmuring and grumbling. It won't always be that way. In your career, you will have, God willing, many high points, huge successes, moments of profound satisfaction, elevation, and even transcendence. There will be days, hopefully many, when you will feel and know that you are the luckiest person on earth, blessed with the opportunity to devote your life to Torah, to God, and to the Jewish people. There will be times when you can truly see how all your hard work and dedication, your mesiras nefesh, has paid off. Yehi noam Hashem Elokeinu eleinu, umase yedenu konena eleinu, umase yedenu konenehu. And there will also be days and stretches of time that will be truly aggravating, frustrating, and even dispiriting. Leading people can be hard. They sometimes grumble and complain. They don't always say thank you. They work at cross purposes to your goals and vision. You give them manna from heaven, and they say, "What, that again? But we wanted fish and cucumbers and watermelon." What can you do at times like this? The first thing to remember is that you are not in this alone. Gather unto me 70 elders, God tells Moshe. Find those current and potential leaders in your community. They will share in your burden. For you will truly succeed as a leader not when you have many followers, but when you inspire and empower others to become leaders in their own right. And turn to your colleagues, those who have tread this path before you. You are about to join an alumni community of over 200, 150 YCT Musmachim, 50 Rikma Israeli Rabbanim and Rabbaniyot, and 20 Talmidei and Talmidot Chachamim, alumni of our Kollel. They want to and will be there for you to support you and to help show you the way. And we are here for you, your Rebbeim, your teachers, your mentors. We are all in this together. The second thing to remember is to always make sure that the Torah is traveling with you. Bikovea itim la Torah. Not because you need to prepare for a class, but because you need to feed your soul. Torah nurtures you. It raises you above the current and transitory crisis and reminds you about what really matters. Ki heim chayenu va'orech yameinu. And when you are nurtured, when you connect to Dvar Hashem, you will also be truly able to bring God and God's Torah to people in their struggles, in their challenges, and in the messiness of their lives. And finally, always remember each person whose life you have touched, the people whom you have been there for. Each individual is an entire world. The Parsha ends with telling us, Ve'ha'am lo nasa ad he'asef Miriam. The entire community ground to a halt because of one person. If the reason we are not moving forward to the promised land is because we are taking care of one individual, someone who has been pushed out and marginalized, someone who is feeling alone and uncared for, then it will all have been worth it. Emile, Eric, and Michael, my dear musmachim, you are ready to journey forth, to teach, guide, and support your students, congregants, and communities. You are eminently qualified to do so. We know that you will bring so much blessing to Klal Yisrael and make us proud. Know that you always have a home here. Stay firm in your Torah learning. Share your leadership with others. Draw strength from your colleagues in the field and the work that you are all doing together. And most importantly, see and care for every individual. Bring them a Torah of compassion, of meaning, and of uplift. Change just one life. For when you transform one life, you truly change the world. Mazel tov.
With its founding some 2.5 decades ago, YCT revolutionized the field of rabbinic education by bringing an updated approach, not just to the methodology of our Torah study, but also to our understanding of the many roles played by rabbis in today's world. Our alumni serve in synagogues, schools, campuses, summer camps, hospital and prison chaplaincy positions, and in numerous communal foundations and organizations. And in all of these, we learn to be milaveh, to escort our people by learning from each other, sometimes in difficult moments, and sometimes in wonderful, easy moments in our process groups. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the presence of Seth Aronson, Dr. Seth Aronson, who has been milaveh this group of rabbanim on their journey. Yashar koach, and thank you. That's just one piece of our pastoral counseling department, and all of us are super grateful to Dr. Michelle Friedman, who taught us the fifth chelek of Shulchan. I was saying the sixth part of Chumash, the fifth chelek of Shulchan Aruch. Dr. Friedman, you literally wrote the book on rabbinic pastoral education, a book used not just here at YCT, but by rabbis and rabbis-to-be in rabbinical schools across Orthodoxy and across the denominational world. It's an honor to invite you, our teacher, mentor, and Rebbe, to deliver closing remarks as we prepare to close tonight's incredible program. Dr. Friedman.
Thank you. So when I was preparing my thoughts for tonight, I didn't know that Rabbi Devor was going to talk about Bamidbar, or that Rabbi Katz was going to talk about finding new inspiration in text. Because this year, I discovered a new appreciation for Sefer Vayikra, Leviticus, the book that's all about the priestly tradition. Everything in it comes out of the covenantal charge given in Shemot, in Exodus. All the world is mine, but you shall be my kingdom of priests and a holy nation. The whole book is a kind of instruction manual, Torat Kohanim, the rules and directions as to how the priests are to do their holy work in the Mishkan and beyond. The Sefer details all kinds of priestly responsibilities, how to properly make offerings, give sacrifices, how to determine whether mysterious plagues have contaminated people or their houses, how to send out the scapegoat on Yom Kippur, how to maintain proper boundaries in intimate relationships, observe Shabbat, honor parents, and on and on. A lot more complicated detail that basically boils down to helping people make meaning, like Rav Linzer just said, out of our mortal story, to help us strive towards purity and sanctity. Actually, it sounds to me a lot like the work for rabbis. So while you new rabbis, Emile, Eric, and Michael, are not likely to slaughter livestock in the temple or examine dermatologic mysteries, Vayikra is shockingly relevant. You may or may not personally claim genetic lineage to our own, but your rabbinic mission is the same as that outlined in Vayikra, to guide Jews away from however idolatry manifests today and towards holiness and celebration of Hashem's gifts, Moda'ani, to us. My bracha to you, my blessing to you, is that you should have the strength and creativity to bring Torat Kahanim to today's Jews, that you have the patience and humor to help people answer the question of what does it mean to try to live a meaningful Jewish life? And for many, why be Jewish at all? May you have the fortitude to identify the contagious impurities of modernity, whether it's keeping the constant stream of electronic media and chatter from polluting our personal lives, getting caught up in rampant materialism, or malignantly negative ideologies. May you be blessed with compassion and wisdom to guide people away from improper or hurtful intimate attachments and towards healthy, nourishing relationships. May you begin and continue to be blessed with loving spouses who support you, and may you always draw from the life-sustaining well of Torah. Mazel tov.
I don't want it to end. Wow. As we close, I'd like to give people a few quick announcements of what's going to happen after this. Those of you who are students or musmachim or staff, faculty of YCT, please stick around right here for a couple of quick pictures. David, if you could do the same thing, that would be great. Thank you. We'll have a minyan for Mariv at 8:45. That's in about 11 minutes' time back in here in the sanctuary. Everyone else, and us too, dessert is being served outside in the lobby in a few more minutes after we sing Hatikva and have spontaneous dancing. As we close, I'd like to say thank you to the Bayit staff for putting this all together for us. And at the risk of leaving people out, I will thank the rest of the YCT office staff. I want to thank David Pernick, our newest member. Noya Lavi. The person who didn't have a speaking role tonight but really ran the whole thing, Ruthie Strasberg-Simon. And the person who literally ran things both in the room and virtually, Eva Mandel. Thank you very, very much. Finally, as we rise for Hatikva, I'll make one request of everyone. Keep learning the Torah and our Torah. Keep engaging with our rabbis. Keep coming back to YCT. Please rise. Kolod balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homiyah lefatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia. Mazel tov.